A healthy morning, everyone. Welcome to Birla Global University MBA 22-24 and all other participants who have joined the Impact Lecture Series online. It's my privilege to announce that Birla Global University is accredited with the Atal Ranking of Institutions on Innovative Awareness and Institution of Innovation Council. Seeking guidance and support from Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir, Dr. P.P. Mathur, Revered Registrar Sir, Dr. B.K. Das, Revered Deans, esteemed faculty colleagues, and all the enthusiast, active mindsets of budding entrepreneurs. India has been emerging as the third largest destination for the startup ecosystem, and that is evident from the registry of 72,694 DPIIT registries with Startup India as of June 2022. And India today is therefore becoming the landscape of unicorns and sunicorns. With that note, we welcome Mr. Anmol Chaturvedi as the first expert speaker who would present us with a topic on the state of ecosystems, especially the role of incubators. And as Anmol likes to call himself, he is an entrepreneur who believes in helping other entrepreneurs. Please give a round of applause for Mr. Anmol Chaturvedi.
Thank you.
Team AIC BIMTech, it goes without saying, we are extremely grateful for your support. And Anmol, the stage is all yours. Please commence with the inaugural of Impact Lecture Series. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. Good morning, Swagat, sir, by the way. Good morning, all the faculty members, officials, students. I am Anmol Chaturvedi. I'm Manager Government Programs at AIC BIMTech. I'm currently in charge of the funding programs at the incubator, such as the Seed Fund Scheme by Startup India. And normally I don't participate in such outreach and awareness raising activities. Still, like our startup founders, we are encouraged to wear as many hats as possible. So this is me wearing a new hat. And thank you. So now I'm going to make a presentation for you, which is titled State of Startup Ecosystem and Role of Incubators, which is part of the Impact Lecture Series. Okay, so I didn't share my screen. I'm sorry about that. This is the first slide. So we have all heard a lot about startups with terms like unicorns, Startup India, Incubation Centers, Accelerators, VCs, and so on. So in today's talk, I will cover various aspects of the startup ecosystem in India and with a focus on the importance and necessity of business incubators. When it comes to the state of our ecosystem, just a minute, I'm sorry. India ranks third in the world, trailing only the United States and China. And because of this...
Actually, we are unable to see your presentation. I think, could you just once again initiate screen sharing?
I have shared the screen.
Can we begin all over again, please?
Okay. Can you see my screen, by the way? Is it visible?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we got it. Thank you.
Okay, got it. So I will start all over again. We have all heard about startups and the terms like unicorns, incubation centers, accelerators, VCs, and so on. So this talk will cover various aspects of startup ecosystem with a focus on importance and necessity of business incubators. And when it comes to our ecosystem, India ranks third in the world, trailing only United States and China. Because of the size, scope, and impact, this ecosystem is having a transformative effect on our country. This isn't something that I'm saying, this is something, the figures are conveying. As you can see, we have today around 40,000 active startups. This is a slightly old graphic. We have had more than 70,000 startups that have launched in the country. And the country's startup economy has obviously, grown by leaps and bounds over the last 11 years. It has been a remarkable journey from a single unicorn in 2011 to a fabulous startup century. So again, India passed this significant milestone of startup century. The 100th startup joined the Unicorn Club this year, and these 100 unicorns have raised over 90 billion in total and are valued at approximately 333 billion. 326 companies were acquired, and they have created around 3.85 lakh jobs. This is the type of impact that Indian startups are making right now. India is expected to have around 250 unicorns by 2025. And here are the 100 unicorns that we are talking about. With the statistics presented in previous slide, we can confidently say that startup ecosystem, is playing an important role in India's development by creating jobs within the country and reducing our reliance on other countries. Sorry. Another graph depicting this dramatic increase in the number of unicorns. And we have seen this significant increase similarly in the number of startups, with the number rising from 400 in 2014 to 70,000 plus, as Swagat sir mentioned earlier, in currently. So how did this all happen? Before we answer that, before we can touch on that, I believe we should start with a basic question, such as what is a startup? Just as there are numerous definitions for entrepreneurship, similarly, there are numerous definitions for startup. According to online, Oxford English Dictionary, a startup is simply a newly established business. Forbes article from 1976 used the term for the first time in the context of a new company. So it's not a new term at all. In terms of legal definition, Government of India has established some eligibility criteria for startups, which are defined by DPIIT. Startups are defined as entities that are incorporated and registered in India and meet the following criteria. Primarily, these four: company age should be less than 10 years. Company can be private limited, registered partnership, or LLP. Annual turnover should not increase 100 crores, and it should be an original entity. Okay, so why am I displaying this image? Because these are the famous members of the PayPal mafia. Despite their name, this is a completely legitimate, outfit. They are completely legitimate group of entrepreneurs. They are founders and former employees of PayPal. We have Peter Thiel here, who co-founded PayPal along with Elon Musk. Back here, we have Reid Hoffman, who founded LinkedIn. So members of PayPal Mafia founded, funded, and led some of the world's largest tech companies, such as Tesla, YouTube, Uber, Airbnb, Udemy, and others. And this mafia has continued to collaborate and invest together since the company was sold to eBay in 2022. I displayed that image because as there are numerous definitions for that word, startup, I have my own definition. I have my own way of looking at that word. In my humble opinion, it's simply a smarter and more efficient way of starting a business. And these people that you saw in the previous slide, they are all technologists. They launched their ventures in the last few decades and basically developed a more efficient and smarter way of doing business, giving the world the startup way. And the person who's Peter Thiel, this person is regarded as the group's leader. He authored one of the most important books on the startup entrepreneurship called 0 to 1. If you get time, please read that book. The emphasis on in the startup way is on launching a venture in a way that minimizes and spreads the risk and softens the lending if the startup fails. As a result, the entrepreneur is able to take on newer and riskier challenges and can venture into uncharted territories. So it differs a lot from traditional entrepreneurship, in which one person takes huge risk, and if that person succeeds, it is primarily his success. For example, JRD Tata establishes a Tata company, it becomes part of a big Tata empire. However, in case of startups, when one person succeeds, it usually means success of many co-founders, many angel investors, venture capitals, and early employees. Why? Because startups are excellent training ground for these people. It trains people in technical skills as well as product thinking. And these people later on go on to build their own ventures or fund other ventures. Also, in startups, goal differs from traditional entrepreneurship. The goal is on getting an exit. Unlike entrepreneur in traditional ventures, startup founders move quickly from one venture to the next. And this way, they are able to focus their energy and efforts on new ideas and businesses once they have obtained an exit. Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, for example, left PayPal to pursue other opportunities. Now, can we imagine Mukesh Ambani selling Reliance Jio to anyone, like Reid Hoffman sold LinkedIn to Microsoft? So that's a major difference between traditional entrepreneurship and startup entrepreneurship. Okay, I'm having slight technical issue. Right. Okay. So why this emphasis on startups? The simplest answer is on top, because startups have been very successful in creating large scale of jobs. According to a report, recognized startups in the country have significantly contributed to job creation, with over 5,49,000 jobs created by around 48,000 active startups, with an average of 11 employees per startup. Recognized startups alone have created approximately 1.7 lakh jobs between 2020 and 2021. Another reason is startups are born global. I mean, they have better ability to break into global markets. For example, Oyo and Zomato. Startups also help in improving standards of living because of their newer idea. E-learning, digital wallets, e-commerce, wearables, so many other are some of the examples. Startups also attract foreign investment. FDI obviously helps in increasing export. It increases the dynamicity of lifestyle and helps stabilizes exchange rate. Startups are also better prepared for future work. The type of work that will be available in future is constantly changing, and future of work will be very different in every business and industry, and we need to start thinking about that. So that is what and why of startups. Now, it should be clear why it makes sense to have lots of startups. But the journey for a startup is not at all easy. They face numerous challenges. Lack of mentorship is one. Getting right mentor. Building the right team is one of the biggest challenges startups face. Finding the right co-founder. Having the right marketing strategy. Since most startups, are by inexperienced entrepreneur, they also lack proper planning. They face difficulties in scaling up, and they are in constant need for support network. And they also funding is also one of the major issue for launching a startup. It's also, in my opinion, another challenge that entrepreneurs face is the public's perception of entrepreneurship. People who work in startups face this issue, especially because of their family, relatives, and others in their immediate surrounding. We have seen some shift recently in how society views entrepreneurship and startups over the last 2-3 years. After Shark Tank, the majority of households are discussing it and are fascinated by it. There is a shift in thinking, but still it is limited to major cities such as Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai. But outside of these major cities, still we face this challenge. The perception is not very good of entrepreneurship. People still prefer salaried jobs. So how did the government deal with all these challenges? How did they deal with it such that we went from 400 startups to 70,000 startups? And the answer is in my opinion, Startup India initiative, which the government launched between 2015 and 2016. These 2 years were very crucial, and we must look back to understand what happened during these two years. Government laid the groundwork for the major pillars of our current startup ecosystem in these 2 years. Does this mean that nothing existed before that? Obviously not. But what existed before was focused on entrepreneurship development, whereas these new pillars were focused on startup entrepreneurship. So in my humble opinion, we progressed from the age of entrepreneurship to age of startup entrepreneurship. Prime Minister Modi first presented the vision of Startup India, Stand Up India on August 15, 2015. And at that time, this was at a time when most people didn't even believe in digital India. They didn't believe in UPI or mobile banking and all the things that we are doing currently. On 69th anniversary of India's independence, Prime Minister Modi addressed the nation from the ramparts of the Red Fort, making preliminary mention of the Startup India. He announced a new campaign which will promote, bank financing and other incentives to boost entrepreneurship and job creation. So it was a very basic vision he presented in his speech. But later in that year, in his Mann Ki Baat radio address, Prime Minister announced that government will come out with a concrete plan. And this plan, the Startup India Action Plan, will be unveiled next year in 2016. This is a short clip from Startup India Stand Up India event on January 16, 2016, where Prime Minister unveiled the Startup India Action Plan. This policy document, in my humble opinion, contains some of the hints as to how the numbers of startup in country increased from 400 to 70,000 between 2014 and 2022. And currently, January 16 is now recognized as a National Startup Day. This is the action plan, and I will request all the people in the audience to please Google it and go through this policy document. It includes the key ingredients that are required to create a successful startup ecosystem. Under Prime Minister's PM Modi's leadership, the government has played a critical role in supporting Indian startup ecosystem, which helped in new startup launches, adoption of digital services, and massive increase in funding, all of which obviously helped startup economy. Ultimately, this combination of progressive government policies and the sheer brilliance of Indian entrepreneur, that was the reason, that was the secret sauce that unleashed the true potential of our startup ecosystem. So let's look at what it takes to build a successful ecosystem that encourages entrepreneurship. This slide outlines some of the essential components, such as accommodative policy. A successful ecosystem must have, financial support, tax credits, IP registration subsidies, venture-friendly regulations. It should also have institutional support, entrepreneur networks such as Stpi, support organizations such as Incubators and Accelerators, access to basic infrastructure, transport, internet, electricity, obviously. Funding also plays a major role, so investor-friendly regulations are needed, friends and family and angel investors, venture capital funds, private equity, public capital, access to debt. So banks also play a major role in supporting this ecosystem. Human capital is also very important, so availability of good education, entrepreneurship-specific training and mentoring, access to, professions like legal, accounting, investment banking, and technical expert. And since I know there are a lot of students that pursue law in BGU, legal professionals are also needed in this ecosystem, because on a day-to-day basis, startup founders deal with a lot of legal, agreements and contracts. So they need that kind of help. Access to market is also important, because the emphasis is on launching as quickly as possible and going to the market as quickly as possible. For that, you need early adopters. Expertise in productizing is required, and distribution channels are needed. Finally, a very important thing is entrepreneurial culture that tolerates risk and failure. As you all know, most startups fail. Only a few startups succeed, and those few startups give so much return that it's worth pursuing, startups. Entrepreneurial culture is needed. So in that, we need environment of innovation and creativity, preference and respect for self-employment, and overall a positive social status of entrepreneurs. This area is where India is still lacking. So what are the conditions in a healthy ecosystem? This slide gives you an idea. A healthy ecosystem operates in an environment with reduced bureaucratic obstacles, in which government policies support entrepreneurs and don't become a hassle and an obstacle. A good ecosystem actively encourages and invites financiers to participate in new ventures. A good ecosystem is reinforced, and not something created from scratch by government and academic institution or commercial organization. It is relatively free from or able to change the cultural biases against failure in operating a business. A good and healthy ecosystem promotes success, which in turn attracts new ventures. A good ecosystem is supported by dialogue among various entrepreneurship stakeholders. So these are the startup ecosystem's key players. Obviously, people are the key players, startups in various stages, various types of organizations, and all these constituents, interact to create and scale new startup companies. Universities, funding organizations, support organizations such as incubators, accelerators, co-working spaces, maker spaces, so on. And research organizations, service providers, and large corporations are among these organizations. Local government and central government organizations such as commerce, industry, and trade departments also play an important role in startup ecosystem. So, and these different organizations, focus on specific part of the ecosystem function, and startups at a specific stage of development stage. Okay, so now these are the major pillars in Indian startup ecosystem. One of the oldest pillar is NSTEDB, National Science Technology Entrepreneurship Development Board. Under this, we have TBIs, Technology Business Incubators. Then there is Startup India, which comes under DPIIT. Atal Innovation Mission, which comes under Niti Aayog. Mighty Startup Hub is a relatively new thing, and it comes under Ministry of IT. We have BIRAC, MSME, IFCI Venture, and obviously state government agencies such as OHub and T-Hub. CSR funds also are important pillar, and not-for-profit organizations such as Stpi also play an important role, and also academic institutions. So these are the support organization in a startup ecosystem. These support organizations include academic institutions, business incubators and accelerators, co-working spaces, service providers, event organizers such as Shark Tank and Horse Table, business angel networks such as India Angel Network, venture capital companies, equity crowdfunding portals, and other funding providers such as banks. So because the focus of this session is on the role of business incubator, I will focus on incubator and Incubation Center is a place where an entrepreneur with an idea can receive assistance that is needed to develop an idea into a commercially viable product or service. Incubation Center plays a critical role in the life cycle of a startup venture, particularly during the early stages. Incubators help incubatees in creating sustainable and scalable and profitable business model. Incubators provide physical infrastructure and value and added support services. Incubators create a strong network of mentors who provide specific knowledge and real-world practical guidance. Incubators also, organize events and programs that bring together various stakeholders of the ecosystem. Incubators, obviously, the most important thing that they do is they provide trainings and mentorship. And they also, some incubators also provide access to prototyping facilities, test beds, market and pilot implementation for products and services. This is the what, why, where, and how of the incubator. So, as mentioned earlier, it's an entrepreneurial organization that assists high-risk, high-potential startups that require assistance in order to maximize their chance of success. It's a tool for regional economic development. Why it exists? Because it exists to promote regional economic growth and long-term development. Mission and goals of are determined by the country's macroeconomic environment, as well as economic and social innovation indicator for the region and state. So mission and goal may not be same in Odisha and in Maharashtra. Typically, incubators exist inside academic and industrial clusters or in proximity to catalytic agents. And this necessitates conducive government policies, industry talent, a favorable business climate, and adequate infrastructure. Usually, incubators are government-led. That's the case in India. University-led, a private initiative, or a public-private initiative, as is the case with AIC BIMTech. It's a public-private partnership, a partnership between Birla Institute of Management Technology and Atal Innovation Mission of Niti Aayog. And how incubators do what they do? Well, they do it by fostering an ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship. And for that, this government's role is also very important in removing barriers to make their incubators' life easier. What are the objectives of incubation programs? Incubators assist in creation and growth of businesses by providing organizational and technical assistance, which helps to reduce entrepreneurial failure. Incubation programs share three common goals: obviously job creation, establishment or acceleration of local industry, and local economy diversification. Incubation can take place either physically or virtually. Virtual incubators do not include workspace, but it includes credible address aimed at the market for professional contacts, including work meetings. So this thing has accelerated after pandemic. Currently, most of our startups are virtually incubated. They don't use physical facilities, but they can obviously, they can use co-working space, they can use co-living space at AIC BIMTech anytime. The incubator provides a variety of support services to startups, many of which are owned by inexperienced entrepreneurs. So they obviously need these services. Economic importance of incubators. An incubator is a way for the community to assist entrepreneurs who have good ideas but lack the resources to launch their businesses on their own. Incubators have been used around the world, for example, to assist in the recovery of impoverished neighborhoods. Incubators have been used to promote scientific innovation by linking partnership between university and businesses. Incubators also help entrepreneurs who want to expand their specialist knowledge through interaction with other small business owners. So incubators are also a place where you can have interaction with other entrepreneurs, and that itself can be a very, can have a major impact. Entrepreneurs can share their ideas, their learnings, and we notice that that helps as much as what, our training programs and mentoring programs. So here, this one. The interest in incubators stem in part from the importance of small businesses in local economy, such as the jobs created and innovation generated. Furthermore, small businesses can grow in greater numbers than larger companies, which are often not local. Incubators provide assistance to local entrepreneurs who are foundation of the local economy, and supporting and the establishment of local businesses can help to retain young entrepreneurs in these geographic regions by preventing the loss of specialized skill, by preventing brain drain, basically. Incubators are also social ventures in many ways. In addition to being growth drivers for regional tech entrepreneurs, incubators, particularly in emerging and promising clusters, play a key role in influencing the path of technological development while ensuring that it is inclusive and sustainable. Matching the emerging incubators play this role by matching emerging markets and societal needs with technology. They do this by promoting inclusive innovation and obviously by capacity building. There are various types of incubator models. Based on the lead institution focus, there are incubators that are led by university and academic institutions. For example, TBIs and AICs are usually established inside universities and institutes. There are community incubators. ACICs by Atal Innovation Mission is an example of that. There are government-led incubators. There are venture capital-led. There are consortium-led, and an example of that would be T-Hub. There is a consortium behind it. Corporate-led incubators are there. PayPal incubator in the country is one such example. And NGO-led, I believe AIC RMP is an example of that. Based on operational models, we have brick and mortar incubators. There are virtual incubators. There are accelerators, which are in many ways similar to incubators. We have mixed technological and cultural incubators. So there are some incubators that are focused on arts and culture and music. There are such incubators out there. There are incubators that are focused on agriculture and allied services, and obviously service incubators. Since incubators are collaborative and innovation spaces, I've given this table which compare incubators with other similar spaces. So we can skip this table. Okay. Incubators versus accelerators. Now, incubators and accelerators there are many similarities, but obviously these are not two exactly same thing. Business incubators, in terms of client, they are focused on science-based businesses and non-technology businesses, whereas accelerators are seen to focus on ventures that are closer to commercialization, such as web-based, mobile apps, social networking, gaming, cloud-based, and firms that do not require significant immediate investment or proof of concept. In terms of business model, incubators are in India are usually supported by government and are mostly non-profit. Accelerators, on the other hand, are primarily for profit, have a for-profit business model. Business incubators are sponsored by universities, economic development organization, and other such groups. Accelerators mostly are, sponsored by successful entrepreneurs and investors. Selection process is mostly same in incubators and accelerators. When it comes to terms of assistance, in incubators, it's between 1 year to 5 years. But when it comes to accelerator, it usually is between 1 to 6 months. When it comes to services that are provided, incubators provide access to management consultancy, specialized IP. They also provide access to other, entrepreneurs. They help in rounding out the skill set, and they help in development of the team and help in financing. When it comes to accelerators, they help in fast test validation of the ideas of startups. They help in creating a functioning beta and finding the initial customers. They help in pitch presentation and preparation. When it comes to investment, incubators usually don't invest a lot of funds. They don't have funds to invest directly into startups, but they do have schemes, and funding can be done through those schemes. Accelerators do invest money. They invest in startups, and they usually take stake in the company. In terms of facilities, incubators provide flexible space at reasonable rate throughout the incubation period. On the other hand, accelerators provide meeting space for boot camps, and some, however, are beginning to provide long-term spaces as well. So that is the basic difference between incubators and accelerators. So when it comes to foundational and agency partners that are supporting incubators, these are some of these government agencies and other organizations that establish, they help in establishment and funding of incubators in the country. NSTEDB, Atal Innovation Mission, MIT, MSME, BIRAC, TDB, state government agencies such as Startup Odisha, international agencies such as KeySet. These are some of these agencies that I mentioned, their logos. Now, in India, government has come out with various schemes to support incubators, and some of these schemes are implemented through incubators, such as Nidhi Seed Support Scheme, Nidhi Entrepreneur in Residence, Nidhi Prayas, Nidhi Accelerator, that is by NSTEDB. Niti Aayog through AIM has its own seed fund scheme. It's not that popular. Startup India is having a fund, launched this Startup India Seed Fund Scheme, and they are going to fund startup with a corpus of around 1,000 crore. And I'm involved in this very scheme and the implementation of the scheme at our incubator. Ministry of IT has TIDE 2.0, Center for Excellence and Samrid Accelerator. And we have MSME and BIRAC and IFCI Venture. IFCI Venture supports entrepreneurs that are from SC and ST background. And there are other such schemes. So we will quickly, skip through this slide. Since there is a lot of focus on women entrepreneurs, government is also having these schemes for women entrepreneurs. For example, Udyami by Sakhi, it's a network for nurturing social entrepreneurs, entrepreneurship, creating business model revolving around low-cost products and services to resolve social inequalities. There's Mudra again, and these schemes are actually really helping women entrepreneurs in the country. So the focus of this session was on incubators and the role these incubators are playing. And I've already covered theory, I believe. So let's take a look at what an incubator is like in practice, and what better example than our own incubator, Atal Incubation Center, BIMTech. This is our general presentation. AIC BIMTech is a sector agnostic business incubator which aims to create economic and social impact through entrepreneurship. It is driven by Atal Innovation Mission, Niti Aayog. Government of India's flagship initiative to create and promote a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship. AIM endeavors to promote culture of innovation and entrepreneurship driven by Niti Aayog. AIM supports the establishment of new incubation center called AICs. In 2018, AIM selected Birla Institute of Management Technology to set up AIC BIMTech for turning the vision of AIM into reality. Incubator was one of the first 10 selections out of the 3,658 first round applicants. Since our inception on January 22, 2018, we have received over 2,300 applications, and we have an acceptance rate of less than 10%. And we receive applications from all over the country as well as around the world. Our startups come from various, variety of industry sectors, and we have, sector agnostic, as we are a sector agnostic incubator. However, we have seen a bias towards edtech and agri-tech sector, which are obviously the dominant sector in this ecosystem. But we believe we can make an impact and value can be created here. Many of our startups have raised funds from our extensive partner network that is building a robust ecosystem. Our AIC BIMTech startups have created over 1,800 jobs to date. We have around 110 corporate and academic partners. We have over 46 international and local mentors. The innovation here lies in focusing on creating, sustainable business through various public and private partnerships by providing market access and capital. Through our 110 plus partners, we across the globe, we offer different benefits to our incubators, including soft infrastructure benefits, which are worth over 9.28 crore. So we offer, soft credits from Zoho, from Amazon AWS, from DigitalOcean, from Great HR, Exotel, you name it. The business can be launched with pretty much no investment at all with the help of these soft credits. Startups do not only work here, they also, many live here. They use our co-living space. This is the overall infrastructure that we have at the incubator. We have 75 seated workspace, 70 seated auditorium, 5 meeting rooms, co-living space, as I mentioned earlier, library facility, healthcare facilities, gym, food facilities. And these are, 60 academic partners, the international partners that we get from through our association with BIMTech, our host institute. And we can leverage, this partnership, and we can use it for collaboration and market access. We have over 20 plus national academic partners, and obviously BGU is one of our academic partners. And these are our startup programs. We have 4 programs: Coach, Praram, Gurukul, and Udan. So Coach is our pre-incubation program, a 4-week program for aspiring entrepreneurs to help them validate their ideas into successful business model. Praram, on the other hand, is 8-week long, and it's an in-depth incubation program aimed to help startups convert their ideas into profitable ventures. And for startups that are looking to fundraise and scale up, there is Gurukul and there is Udan. We have also operated number of partner programs. So these are some of the international partner programs that we have run. KeySat is one of the key program. It was in collaboration with the South Korean Ministry of SME and Korean Institute of Startup and Entrepreneurship Development. And in this program, we provided soft lending and market access program for Korean startups. There was a pre-program, and in that there were around 20 Korean startups. And then there was the main program, there were around 10 startups. Similarly, we provided a program for Canadian startups. It was a Indian immersion program for select companies with innovative technologies that have potential application and growth in India. We did this in partnership with Canadian Technology Accelerator. These are two other international programs that we have carried out. This one together 22 was again a Canada and India initiative to increase access to global startup ecosystem. YSIP, Young SDG Innovator Program by UNGC&I was a 10-month program to use sustainable development goal as a catalyst for development of new products and services within the participating organization. Just give me a moment. I can have a sip of water. We have also collaborated with the Government of India, and we are currently running two major programs, two flagship funding programs. One of Startup India, which comes under DPIIT, and Samrid, which is by Ministry of IT. It's recently launched, and the applications for Samrid programs are open. So Startup India Seed Fund Scheme is under this, we have a corpus of around 5 crore, and we provide funding to startups in the form of grant that is up to 20 lakhs. And for the startups that are looking to commercialize and scale up, we provide funding of up to 50 lakhs. Till now, we have funded around 7 startups and are currently in process of closing the deal with around 7 other startups. So around 14 startups that we have selected for funding. And the goal is, and the target is to fund around 30 startups in total. Samrid is a different kind of scheme. It is by Ministry of IT, and it's believed that it's a brainchild of the Minister of IT, Mr. Vaishnav. It's a accelerator program which has an interesting, matching funding element to it, where if an investor invests in the startup, Ministry of IT itself, through its nodal agency MSH, will invest the same amount on the same terms. So, for example, under this Samrid scheme, if investors are going to invest 40 lakh rupees, Ministry of IT will match that same amount on the same terms, and they will invest in the company. So it's one of the one really innovative scheme, and so government itself is investing in startups is a pretty new thing. That is my understanding. And another thing that we are doing in collaboration with central government is with MSME innovation scheme that we have not yet launched, but we will be launching it next year. We have also collaborated with state governments. In fact, Prarambh is one such program. We collaborated with Startup Odisha. In this, we ran a virtual market access program for Odisha-based startups. This was done in 2021 and during the second wave. And I remember as difficult it was, we believe that we made an impact with this program. Startup in UP is another partner that we are having, and we have, in partnership with them, we are carrying out a number of activities. We organize a one-day incubator program for around 24 incubators in partnership with Startup in UP. And then we have some other programs that are in progress. Some are in progress with the agencies from Assam, Rajasthan, Jammu and Kashmir, and Punjab. And one is in partnership with the Guwahati Biotech Park. So we are looking forward to it. It's something that we'll be launching very soon. And then we have some corporate collaborations. With HDFC Bank, we did a funding program called Parivartan. And through this program, we supported HDFC through AIC BIMTech supported startups with 50 lakh in the field of EdTech, skill development, and sustainable development. Another program was Freedom at 75, which we did in collaboration with LinkedIn Local India and AIC Raise, another Atal Incubation Center. And it was India's first accelerator program, which was exclusively, created for founders and promoters with any form or an all spectrum of disabilities. And yet, after being inspired by this program and the success of this program, Freedom at 75, we launched another program called Sambhav, an idea accelerator program in partnership with AdPar. This was again for people with disabilities. The focus was to develop entrepreneurship among the people that are having such disabilities, and it got us the NHRD HR Showcase 2021 award for best practices. These are some of the recent initiatives that we have launched. Back in March, we launched that we did a program called Amalgam, a 4-day convention aimed at forming an amalgam of entrepreneurial stakeholders. Each day was focused on 4 growth stages of an entrepreneur, from ideation to prototyping, and from revenue generation to acceleration. It was a pretty successful event, and the complete event is available on YouTube. You can go to our YouTube channel and you can go through that event. Entrepreneur is something that is that we are running right now. It's a unique program, a 7-week cohort for insurtech startups to support them in turning their ideas into successful business plan. And these 2 other programs, ICDP and IEDP, are for training the trainers, not really for startups, but training the people who are going to, mold and mentor future startups. So Incubation Center Development Program is a capacity building program to enable budding entrepreneurs, budding incubators to design and implement world-class entrepreneurship programs and make their incubation sustainable and build credibility. And IEDP program, Incubator Employee Development Program, is to develop and train professionals who aspire to work in this ecosystem. As you may know, we have currently around 700 to 800, I don't really know the exact figure, 700 to 800 incubation centers, and we don't have this enough staff to run these incubators. So we need a lot of such professionals. So that is why we are running this program. This program is curated while complementing the 2-fold agenda of Government of India, that is employment generation and strengthening the startup ecosystem. And we will soon be, we are soon going to implement this program in partnership with the Rajasthan and Odisha government. This is our amazing team at our incubator, and this is usually in incubator, the team is fairly small, around 4 or 5 people. But our team we are lucky that we have such a amazing, and we have such a big team now. And we need, in fact, more people because there's so much that is going on at AIC BIMTech. What is unique about our team is that pretty much all of us, we behave and we work like startup founders. That means that we wear multiple hats. We are encouraged to take on different challenges, and that is really cool. It is really fulfilling because in this job, there's always something that new that we can learn. We are not doing same thing again and again. We are learning all the time at our incubator. These are some of our startups. On top, you have Kajal Srivastav, who received this award in this event in Ahmedabad, I believe. And Kajal is from Nadi Pulse. Nadi Pulse is a biotech startup that uses Ayurvedic pulse diagnosis principle. They have developed a device along with a mobile app that reads radial pulses and diagnoses health condition and make food, yoga, exercise, and diet recommendation for a more balanced life. So it is one of the really, successful startups in terms of how much media and publicity that they have attracted. She herself have met Prime Minister Modi around, I think, 3 or 4 times already. Another startup is Probanu. Here we have Aditya Bose from Probanu. Probanu offers online and offline career guidance to students through 3-step innovative, technologically backed and affordable process. They provide career counseling, mentor session, and career-based courses. Probanu's career counseling is a services are combination of online content, psychometric tests, and in-person support to assist students in exploring career options and shortlisting the career options that they are interested in. So he actually took part in KBC, and in this program he also did a psychometric test for Amitabh Bachchan ji. These are two pretty successful startups in terms of funding, in terms of revenue generation. We have Truck Suvidha. It's a logistics startup based in Yamunanagar, a tier 2 city. It is working extensively with trucking community. When they came to us, they were facing issues with their business expansion. And within a year of acceleration program, not only were they able to expand to 7 cities across the country, but they also raised around 20 million of funding from GAIL. Liqui is another startup, and as you can see, in they have Supir Singh in this picture because he's an investor in this company. Liqui manufacture pulp-based smoothies, and when they reached out to AIC BIMTech, they were having some issues in their distribution channel. And when we onboarded them in our acceleration program, we also we obviously helped them in funding, but we also helped them in figuring out the solution for the manufacturing and logistical issues that they were facing. So the common theme here is that all these startups that come to us with their respective business problem, we address and resolve this problem in irrespective of stage, industry, and focus of impact. This is our final slide in our incubators presentation. If you want to learn more about our incubator or our programs, please visit our website, www.aicbimtech.com. You can also contact us via email, team@aicbimtech.com. So in terms of how far our ecosystem has developed and how well it is performing on most parameters, there is no better example than our own incubator. When we started, obviously we were struggling like, we were not struggling, but we were facing same challenges as some of the newer incubators are facing. But now we are having so much, we are doing so many things all the time. It's a reflection of how well the ecosystem is doing. Still, the startup ecosystem faces numerous challenges. One of the challenge, as I mentioned earlier, is when it comes to incubators, is that we have around 800 plus, according to Startup India website, 800 incubators across the country. We don't have enough trained people to run these incubators. So that is a huge challenge, and definitely Government of India's support is needed here. Another challenge from my experience is that increasing investments do not always ensure success of a startup. So we have seen that startups are receiving a lot of funding. We are having so many unicorns, in India. Startups are, they represent large bets, and obviously when it comes to survival, we cannot confidently say that all these unicorns will survive. So that is a challenge, and obviously we need to address that. Another thing is that India is still a marginal player in many sectors such as defense, space, and consumer electronics. While we have done well in fintechs and e-commerce sector, we are still lagging in these sectors such as consumer electronics, space, and defense. The reason in case of space and defense. The reason is lack of private participation in these two sectors because of absence of framework to provide transparency and clarity in law, and government should obviously address this. And when it comes to consumer electronic manufacturing, well, it is heavily reliant on imported small components. And getting a lot of small components made in India is going to be a really, it's going to play a critical role in developing an export-oriented industry. Now, there's another challenge that we face is that Indian investors are not willing to take risk. While the amount of angel and venture capital invested in Indian startup has increased tremendously in recent years, the ecosystem from when it comes to Indian investors, it still lacks resources. The big investors in India are still from overseas, such as Japan and China and US. And the main reason is that India does not have a serious venture capital industry with a appetite for risk. Investors in India still tend to focus on rather mature startups, and more money is obviously required to help younger ones to develop their prototypes. So we need to address this challenge. The way forward, in my opinion, is that the rapid development of our ecosystem necessitates, significant funding from venture capital and angel investors. And to bridge the gap between the ideation stage and, the next step, government can incentivize angel investments by, for example, eliminating the angel tax and providing other types of tax break to these, venture capitals and angel investors. Apart from policy decisions that encourage entrepreneurship, it is also the responsibility of corporate sector to foster entrepreneurship and create synergies in order to build impactful technology solution and sustainable resource efficient growth. There is, if you remember that slide of PayPal Mafia, so there is a phenomenon in a mature ecosystem where successful entrepreneurs support other younger startups by funding, by mentoring, and that needs to gain traction in India. We have some examples of that. For example, we have our own Zoho Mafia, but we definitely need more examples. When it comes to ecosystem actors, they are geographically concentrated in metros, and startups that are not located in metros are unable to change their base, may struggle to obviously struggle to succeed. So support must be extended to entrepreneurs in these smaller tier 2, 3, and 4 cities. And the most important thing that we need to address and is obviously is the culture that we have in our country. Startups have received increased attention with the media and popular culture reporting on successful exits, featuring stories about startup heroes. And as a result, being a startup founder is now considered cool. And there is now social acceptability of entrepreneurial careers. However, many enterprising people are still discouraged from pursuing their passion by their families and social environment, and feel pressure to choose a job and lifestyle that is perceived to offer more stability. That is really, really strong in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So instead, we should be focusing, our culture should be more supportive of people who take initiative and create something on their own. And this taking should be rewarded more, and failure should be viewed with less disdain. So with that, I will wrap up this presentation. I hope we have some time for Q&A. Over to you, Swagat sir.
Thank you, Anmol. Like you have presented an articulate experience of working with Atal Incubation Center at Birla Institute of Management Technology. And, there is this simple word hope available with both the worlds. The first belongs to hopeful, the latter belongs to the hopeless. There's a difference too. And the difference is either you start up or you give up. So while the presentation, when the noise, when the hustle is really between the discussion over the topic, it is well understood. And imagine that a team of about 7 of 8, right, accomplishing not only crores of revenue, which is meritorious for the parent organization as well as for the entity, which is the incubator, but more importantly, it is employment creation, not only for self, but for the community. That's where an incubator and the role of a startup really matters, which means an entrepreneur initially has the life of struggle that nobody cares, nobody wants, and later he leads a life that nobody can't, right? Because you need that perseverance, and that is true entrepreneurship. Now, before we move on to seeking questions from the audience in the seminar hall, I will request a volunteer, a round of applause for Mr. Adhyan, please. He'll be handing you over the microphone, so keep your questions intact. But before that, Anmol, we got some questions through our online participation, and the first one to begin with is actually something that even I have a bewildered thought for. Why is it that when we talk about the startup ecosystem, the metropolitan cities like Bangalore, or let us say Delhi and Mumbai, they take a leap, and the rest, either is a follow-up or a quite a progressive, state level hierarchical processes. Why is it that? And there is a second question as well, and that is pertaining to ASA BIMTech. We saw that there are around 2,300 plus applicants, but the acceptance rate is less than 10%. So either it is too harsh, or does it shows that there's a bigger reason to also discover why actually startups fail. So please proceed for these two questions initially, and then we can take up questions from our audience. Thank you.
Swagat sir, we are also, we are based in Uttar Pradesh, but what we also emphasize on in our presentation is that our incubator is based in NCR. So, this proximity and actually helps our incubator. Why these, hubs, startup hub, ecosystem hubs like Delhi, Bangalore are doing well. The companies are based in these two areas, and people, talented people are moving towards these cities. Now, after pandemic, it is getting a, it has not as this is not as pronounced anymore. Incubators can function, in tier 2, 3, and 4 cities, but still these startup hubs, they are always I believe they will always have, they will always be on top. And in terms of funding, in terms of success stories, you will get more success stories from these major. So for government should be supporting incubators and the stakeholders in these tier 2 and 3, 4 cities. And government is doing that. Pragya ma'am, would you like to add something?
Yes. Thank you, Anmol, and thank you everyone for patiently listening to what Anmol had to say about the role of incubators in the startup ecosystem and how it is developing, right? So as Anmol said, answering the first question that Swagat said, that government is now actually moving towards tier 2, tier 3 cities, where many institutes in these cities, I would say, now opening incubation centers. And if not incubation centers, something called innovation centers or e-cell, where they're trying to develop the mindset, entrepreneurial mindset in the minds of students, right? Which is very important. And I think government is doing that. And in fact, I would say that we're meeting many institutions where the management actually is very interested in having these facilities for students. The entrepreneurial mindset, and when it comes from the management, I feel, Swagatji and the participants here, that it will grow, and it is growing. It will definitely grow. Coming to the next question, if I may, Anmol, I'll just answer that also, that why the process is stringent, wherein you mentioned that, yes, we have 2,300 plus applications, but we have chosen only 220, which is like almost around 10%. It's a stringent process. Why? Because we want founders that are passionate. We want founders that are actually serious about going into this entrepreneurship journey. What happens mostly is that sometimes we get applications that are duplicate of a business that is already existing. Maybe someone wants to create an Instagram, someone wants to create another shadi.com. That is not what we are looking for. We are looking for some innovation, right? We are looking for some interesting fact, some interesting solution that someone has brought into our existing day-to-day life, some challenges that we are facing. And it could be a very small thing. We are open to these, I would say, ideas, but we're not open to duplication. And that is what happens. So there are different criteria on which we select startups. And one of the important factors here is the founders, the team, how flexible they are, what is the idea, what is the solution. So they play an important role, and somehow that is why our selection process is very stringent.
To add to that, it's actually even more stringent. We also have received over 400 application for, in seed fund scheme, and we have selected just 14 startups. And there, what I have noticed, because I'm doing the initial screening, again, as Pragya ma'am mentioned, there are a lot of startups that are actually just, they're not even doing, even basic market research. Whatever they are coming up, the idea, it's already out there. The established companies are doing, they are raising funds, and they are actually asking for funding for such an idea. So that is one of the reasons why it's, our selection criteria. I mean, we selected around less than 10% of the applications that we have seen so far.
Thank you, Ms. Pragya and Mr. Anmol. Now the house is open for having some questions coming from the listeners straight from the heart. And I will also request faculty members and Dean sir if they want to contribute. Adyan, could you please reach out?
Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. I'm Avdesh Kumar. And actually, definitely we have learned so much of thing today about a startup. And definitely I do have so much of respect for entrepreneurs because it requires lots of guts for that. But as me being a student, many of us will agree that we are mostly interested in job, and we definitely do have a question mark when we go for jobs for a startup company. So I just wanted to ask a question, is that what should we think, or what will you suggest before we join a startup company? That's all.
Should I go, Anmol? Okay. Very good question. Thank you for raising that question, because I'm sure this question might have popped up in many of the students that are sitting there. So see, when we talk about startup, what is the thing where we fear is the risk, the ability to take risk, right? Especially when you are saying you're a student and all of you look out for jobs that are stable, where you want a regular source of income, and there is no. So whenever you go in for a startup as a student, please keep in mind that there's a risk factor always, but there's an immense learning there. Let me point out to that. In a startup, in a team of maybe 5 to 10 people, you will learn 10 times more as compared to if you go to a very stable job, corporate job, where you will sit in a desk from 10 to 6, and maybe you're doing a work which is repeatedly that you're doing it day in, day out. Few benefits, I would say. You learn new every day, something new every day, right? Challenges will come to you, and you will be amazed that the ability you'll have to solve those challenges. You learn that ability there. Today, I'm here in this ecosystem. I consider AIC BIMTech, myself, my team, working in a startup itself. I did not know the abilities that I could deliver here, right? So starting from leading a program to creating, designing the program, to helping or mentoring the startups I have gained a lot, and this I have 7 years of experience. I've worked in corporates before. I've worked in Dubai before. The immense exposure that I've seen here is not what you'll gain anywhere else. And once you work in a startup, even if after that, some mishap is there, you see a lot of jobs se hata rahe log, but when you shift to another job, you'll always have a leverage. You'll always have a leverage over other candidates that will be applying for a job. And you never know, while working for a startup, you might come up with an idea and you start working on your own. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you once again. Thank you, experts. Are there any other questions to be taken up with? Are you still pondering over how to raise the question? Okay, we got one from the first learner, Dr. Parmeshwar Naik. Round of applause, please.
Nice to see you on screen. My question is quite an extension of the question that you just answered. Those students would ask this question, but I am asking on their behalf. With my experience of handling this question with the students, why do they go for job in good numbers, not for starters? The basic reason what most of the students who study MBA particularly, not only in the institution like BIMTech or a BGU, but in the top tier institutions where they have to pay more than 15 lakhs or 20 lakhs like that, usually they take loans, education loans. The first responsibility of the student when they pass out from MBA is to pay off the loan. Though some of them are interested to go for startups, they have passion for it, but they do not really venture out for that because of this reason. I think all of you agree. Yeah. So how to address this issue? Many of them would like to come back after 5 years of experience. Maybe like what Pragya said, she might have come to this after working for 5-6 years. So how to attract that population, how to contact the alumni, those who have got that kind of passion for startup. I think, can your center facilitate students who are really not interested in job, but they are bound to do job and earn money and pay off the loans? Thank you.
Sir, good afternoon, sir. In fact, I would say that one of the selection, criteria, one thing that we are looking for, in startups is that people who have some experience, who have gained some experience. We actually don't take, founders who are, graduates who have no experience and straight out of college or universities and institutes. So it makes sense. Obviously, the realities of life are important. You have to pay back the loan. You have responsibilities towards your family. So I will say that what we are doing today, right now, that is what is going to plant seed in people's mind, and they will go out there, work in corporate sector like Pragya ma'am. She has experience of 7 years, and they will come back. I hope a lot of you will come back gaining that experience, corporate experience. You will learn about that industry, that sector, and you will have those ideas. And then that there is an incubator out there. There is an incubator nearby that can support you in developing that idea into a credible and sustainable venture. So that is the right way to go. And I would advise everyone to actually, unless you have a very incredible idea and you are sharing it with people and everyone is saying that, yes, it's a really good, you should forget about job. If that's not the case, obviously go for the job, work. And then once you have enough funds available, because startup life is not easy at all. There's a lot of support available, but you still need funds, money for living, for food and shelter. So once you have all of that in place, then come to incubators and we will be glad to help you. Pragya ma'am, would you like to add something?
Yes, I think Anmol did answer. So absolutely right, sir. I'm sure people have to pay back their loans. They go to the corporate and they can come back with some idea. But I will just add on that, sir, as an institution, you asked how can we help, even though if they are, paying back loans. So when we incubate a startup, the co-working space is free for them. We don't charge anything for the startups. The different infrastructure benefits that they require are free for them. The program benefits that we give, the workshops, the sessions that are conducted are free of cost. We don't charge anything from the startups when they come to us and they get incubated, at least in our first of few of the programs, which is wherein the startups are at an ideation stage. We do understand, sir, that and a journey of an entrepreneur is very difficult, and these small support and benefits that we can provide adds up. आज नहीं लगता है हमें कि हमें co-working space या एक rent पे we give out 5,000 rupees देना is not that much, but it does. It matters a lot for someone who's starting a startup. So these are the small benefits that we do offer. We in fact do offer co-living space as well for our incubators at a very nominal cost of 1,500 rupees a month. So in terms of commercials, in terms of money, these are the supports as an institute we are offering to our startups. I would not say that all the other incubators are offering the same, but everybody nearby, are offering more or less the same things for an startup. So if a student, you have an idea, but you are obligated or you have some duties with you, right? So while you are in a corporate job, I would say don't leave your idea. Keep working on your idea while you're working. And maybe you set a timeline for yourself. Maybe I know in 2 to 3 years down the line, now I'm set and maybe I can take this path. Go for it. And in next 2 to 3 years, I can guarantee there will be a lot more support for the startup ecosystem and for entrepreneurs that we have today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you once again, Ms. Pragya and Mr. Anmol. Thank you, Dean Sir, Dr. Parmeshwar Naik, for raising the closing ceremony question, in fact. To be precise, in fact, there is one more information to be added to what you have already learned, that you have come for a professional course for a 2-year tenure and a batch that is, growing close to attain the figure of 200. Could we promise or could we work hard at least to float 1 or 2 startups, okay, for your own academic batch? I think that is not much of an expectation. Beyond that, we have national innovation and startup policy for faculty and students. So you need not pay. All that you need is to provide an idea that can be, ideation stage, that can be taken to validation stage and prototyping. It is quite similar to, when a child is born, there is a special place taken to check the vitals before the child is actually, exposed to the real life conditions. And that is what exactly incubatees are meant to be trained with the incubators. All right. So be the toddlers for the marathon, not for the 100-meter, 200-meter, 9 to 5 jobs, right? And there is a flexibility, like I said, with Startup India, Startup Odisha, all the Atal Innovation missions, and like Anmol has rightly pointed out, we have Samriddhi Challenge open. So some good registration, some good ideas is what we are looking for. With that potential and with that thought, I once again thank our esteemed expert, Mr. Anmol Chaturvedi, Manager of Government Programs from Atal Incubation Center, BIMTech, Noida. Thank you, esteemed faculty members. Thank you, Dean Sir, and thank you all the students. We are going to assemble once again at 14:20 hours for the second session of the first Impact Lecture Series. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you. Sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
A healthy afternoon once again. Welcome all of you for the afternoon session of the Impact Lecture Series in collaboration with Ministry of Education's Innovation Cell and Institution of Innovation Council at Birla Global University, that is accredited with Atal Ranking of Institutions on Innovative Awareness. We have with us esteemed speaker, Srimati Lopa Mishra Jana, Chief Operating Officer, Stpi Next, Bhubaneswar. In one line, if you have to introduce ma'am, she is the most fabulous mentor with a team of expertise in the neighborhood who always welcome us with a smile, and the Electropreneur Park that she is managing. Today, she'll be having a topic to discuss about the Centers of Entrepreneurship that is run under the aegis of Stpi Next. Please welcome with a round of applause, Srimati Lopa Mishra Jana.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much, Mishra ji.
Most welcome, our privilege.
Good afternoon and namaskar to one and all. To the students, I hope you have had a stomach full of lunch, right? And in case the answer is a yes, I should see some hands raising. Oh, great. Then I'm afraid a stomach full always invites a nap, never a session, right? But nevertheless, I still welcome you all to this session that is on startups, entrepreneurship, electropreneurship, and how Stpi has been driving innovation through its various centers of entrepreneurship. So, but one thing that is going to be different is my approach. Instead of being very positive and telling you, okay, come on, you can do it, buckle up, I'm going to be negative. Okay, so instead of telling you this, that okay, you can do it, you have all the power to do a startup. Let me consider all the reasons that you aren't doing entrepreneurship. Okay, some apprehensions to begin with. One is people often consider themselves too young. A lot of people think they're too young to start a startup, and many are of course right. The median age worldwide is 27. So probably a third of the population still thinks that they're very young, which truthfully is yes. But the main thing that is fuzzy is the edge. What is it? So the outer limit, like that is own. The best way to get experience, my friends, is to start a startup. So paradoxically, if you think you're too inexperienced to start a startup, you should better go and start one. In fact, getting a normal job may actually make you less able to start a startup. But by turning you into someone who thinks that he needs to have a boss or needs an office to work in, have a product manager who should tell him or her how to write a code, a manager to tell us what operations to do. So go ahead and start startups right out of the college. There is no better time to take risks than when you are young. Sure, you will probably fail. There's no doubt about it. But even failure will get you to the ultimate goal of goal faster, than you all entering a job. The third point I would say is some of us are not very determined. You need a lot of determination to succeed as a startup founder. Yes, because it is the single best predictor of success. Some people may not be determined enough to make it, but most people probably underestimate their determination. Many become visibly more determined as they get used to running a startup. And a very good example is you can tell if you're determined enough or not. When Larry Page and Sergey Brin, they themselves were unsure about what they are doing. They were very unsure what they will start as a company. And then they did some projects of their own. And right now what we have is Google. The fourth apprehension that we all have is we know nothing about business. And I'm telling you, this is another variable whose coefficient should actually be always 0. You don't need to know anything about business to start a startup. Your primary focus should always be your product. And all you need to know in this phase is how you build things that people want. And if you succeed in you will have to think how you make money out of it, how you make a good product, and then how you make money out of it. And learning about business, you can always learn it on the fly. But pretty much 100% of the startups that make something popular, they definitely manage to make money out of the product. And moreover, you have centers of entrepreneurship like that of STPIs that will handhold you and help you cross this bridge of uncertainty always. And let me tell you one thing, if users love you, users of your product love you, you can always make money out of it somehow. And if they don't love your product, then the cleverest of the business models in the world won't be able to save you. The most valuable truths are the ones that actually people don't believe. They are like undervalued stocks, and also if you start with them, you'll have a whole field to yourself. When you find an idea, it is good, but most people do not agree with you. You should not merely ignore their objection, but then push yourself aggressively into that direction and make it happen. The fifth, well, I cannot say it's an apprehension, but this is a truth, that the most difficult situation every wannabe entrepreneur faces is the fear of not having the right co-founder. Not having the right co-founder is a real problem. A startup is too much for one person to bear. All investors, without exception, are more likely to fund you with a co-founder than without it. If you don't have a co-founder, what should you do? Any answers? Well, I'll not be able to hear you, but if you don't have a co-founder, you should better go and get one. That is the easiest thing that you should do. It is more important than anything else. If there is no one where you live who wants to start a startup with you, then move ahead. Move where there are people who would like to work with you. If no one wants to work with you on your current idea, switch to an idea that people would like to work with you on. And for you students, if you're still in college, you're surrounded by actually the potential co-founders. A few years out of it, it still gets harder to find them, because most of them will already have jobs and perhaps even families to support. So if you have friends you can scheme up about startups, make sure you keep your dream alive. Make sure you keep your contacts alive so that you can definitely have the right co-founder with you. Okay, the next thing is you say, I don't have any idea to start up, to have a startup. Well, I'm not going to say, go get an idea, Sarji. No, it's not a problem if you don't have a good idea, because most startups change their ideas anyways. In fact, the founders are more important than the initial idea. We at our centers of entrepreneurship are very confident that we can sit down with you, cook up something very promising. So if you have a startup with no idea, what do you do next? Either you find something that is really missing in your life, then supply that need. And no matter how specific it is to you, it seems, go ahead and work on it. A need that is very narrow, but is very genuine, is a better starting point than one that is broad, but is hypothetical. So find out that missing thing in your life and start working on it. Another big thing big problem that we face is entrepreneurs or innovators, they come up and say that there are no more room for startups. A lot of people look at this ever increasing number of startups and think, okay, this cannot continue. There are too many startups in this zone. But this is false. No one claims that there is, do you all claim that there is a limit in the number of jobs or number of people who can work at a 100% company? Do you ever think that there's a limit to it? Then why should there be any limit on the number who can work for a equity, have a startup at a 5% company? It is usually implicit in statements like this, that there are only so many startups like Google, Microsoft, and all that can buy. But maybe though the list of acquirers is a lot longer than that, the reason big companies buy startup is because they believe that the startup has created something that is valuable. And why should there be any limit to the number of valuable startups that companies that can acquire? Next, a very important thing. Parents want you to become doctor, manager, engineer. Papa कहते हैं बड़ा नाम करेगा, बेटा हमारा ऐसा काम करेगा, right? Who knows this song? Can I see some hands raised? Oh, great. We all have we all have listened to this song at least 1,000 times in our lives. But let me tell you, families are entitled to their own traditions. One is that parents tend to be more conservative for their kids than they would be for themselves. This is actually a very rational response to their situation. And in almost everything, the reward is proportionate to risk. So by protecting the kids from the risk, parents are, without realizing it, are also protecting them from the rewards. And the other reason parents may be mistaken is that they are definitely always, they feel that they are fighting the last war. The parents who want you to be a doctor may not simply realize that things have changed over time. Would they be unhappy if you were Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg for that reason? So I think the best way to deal with your parents' opinions about what you be doing is to treat them like, you've seen these feature requests in softwares and all, treat them like feature requests only. Like even if your goal is to please them, the way to do that is not simply to give what they are asking for. Instead, think about why they are asking for something and see if there's a better way to give them what they need, right? So what if people in their 20, like the entrepreneurs, fail? They'll still learn a lot. And that job at Microsoft or Google or Facebook will still be waiting for them if they need it. Another big question is, what can you do if you have a family and want to start a startup? If you cannot start one, you know, you can at least start a consulting business. At least you will never be without an income. Another good way to decrease this risk is to join an existing startup instead of starting your own. If at all you have apprehensions about starting a startup. Because being one of the first employees of a startup is a lot like being the founder. A question of co-founder here gets solved too. We were just discussing about finding the right co-founder. So you become a co-founder to some company. The most underestimated reason for not starting a startup is most of the people are in their 20s. And like a lot of people of that age who value freedom, they think that they're not ready for any kind of commitment. They're very reluctant to do anything that requires commitment of more than a few months. And if you start a startup that succeeds, it is definitely going to consume at least 3 to 4 years. If it fails, it will be done a lot quicker, right? So if you aren't ready for commitments on that scale, then, and be aware though that if you get a regular job also, you'll be ending yourself for as long as that period, only 3 to 4 years, where what a startup would take. Then you should probably do not try. If you're not committed, do not try your hands at forming a startup. I would just like to say that if you're ready to clip on that ID badge and then go out for that orientation session, you may be well ready to start a startup as well. What else? So a founder, a co-founder, an entrepreneur, even for that matter, for anybody else, we all need to be structured. If you're one of the people who cannot structure, you probably should never start a startup. In fact, you shouldn't even go and work for one. In a good startup, you don't get told what to do. There may be one person who has a designation of a director, but till the company has more manpower recruited, no one in a startup tells you what to do. Each person should do what they need to do without anyone telling them to. How do you tell if you have the right mindset to start a startup? Well, if you're really troubled by the uncertainty, if you start a startup, it will probably fail, like I said. But seriously though, this is not a bad way to think about the whole experience. You should always hope for the best. Expect the worst. In the worst case, what it will be least interesting, right? You can always switch over to another job. But in the best case, what will happen? You will all become ultra rich, right? And no one will blame you if your startup fails. For as long as you have made a serious effort, let me tell you, when big companies are asked, they're asked about hiring, they always prefer to hire someone who has a startup experience, who has tried to work at a startup, who has, like, even if you fail, They still look for someone who has tried their hand at a startup over someone who had spent the same amount of time working in a big company. Even the investors will never hold it against you as long as you don't fail it because of your laziness or sheer stupidity. Okay, before switching over, the last point, and that is perhaps valid for everyone, is job. That's the most powerful reason why people get regular jobs. It is the default thing to do. And defaults are always powerful, humongously powerful. If you need money, go get a job. If you want this, go get a job. If you need money, you should go and get a job, right? That holds true for everyone, right? Well, except for criminals, it holds true for everybody else. But let me remind you, many years back, what was the default way of living? It was farming. We may be seeing another such change right now. The beginning from farming to manufacturing. Startups are never, they aren't interesting just because they are a way to make a lot of money. There is more and more going on with startups. They may represent as one of those rare paradigm shifts in the way the wealth is created. More than wealth, it is a value that is being created by the startups. Let me just share my screen. Okay. Is my screen visible? Can I get a thumbs up?
Yes,
Can I see a thumbs up? Yeah, thank you. So, are you ready to start off? I need hands raised because I'm unable to hear you all. So are you ready to start off? Lovely. So I'll just quickly read out a very, common definition of startups. The startups are young companies founded to develop a unique product or service, bring it to the market, and make it irresistible and irreplaceable for customers. Rooted in innovation, a startup, what does a startup aim? A startup aims to remedy deficiencies of the existing products or create entirely new categories of goods and services, disrupting entrenched ways of thinking and doing business for the entire industries. That's why many startups are known within their respective industries as disruptors. The sad reality of hundreds of thousands of these startups that entrepreneurs launch every year, many never get off the ground. Others fizzle after a spectacular rocket start. They mostly fizzle like Coke fizz. Most of the entrepreneurs, they get plenty of confusing counsel. Like you have to diversify your product line, you have to raise your capital by diluting your equity, don't risk losing control just because things aren't bad, you have to act decisively, have a good team, hire a professional manager, look at your fixed costs. Why are all these conflicting advices? Because the range of options, problems that the founders of these young enterprises face is vast. What these innovators or entrepreneurs should continuously ask themselves is what business they want to be in and in what capabilities should they like to develop. Similarly, these organizational weakness and imperfections that the entrepreneurs face every day would cause anybody to panic. I see my startups here. The imperfections or the weaknesses that they have definitely is panicking for anybody. And that is normal. I'll tell you that is very normal. Many young enterprises, they simultaneously lack coherent strategies. They don't have this competitive strengths, talented resources, and a clear reporting matrix. Why? Because sometimes entrepreneurs can tackle only one or two opportunities or a problem at one time. Just as a parent should focus more on a toddler's motor skills than his or her social skills, the entrepreneurs should be able to distinguish what is critical issues from the normal growing up pains. Right? These are the teething problems, I mean. The options that are appropriate for one entrepreneurial venture may not be completely appropriate for another. It can be completely inappropriate. Because entrepreneurs must take a surprising number of decisions. They must make that decisions that are right for them. So what kind of steps that they need to take? What kind of steps that they need to take? What should these entrepreneurs think? What kind of enterprise do I need to build? What is it? The first step that clarifies these entrepreneurs' goal is exactly what I said. What kind of enterprise do they need to build? They need to be very, very clear about that. Second, what is it? The second evaluates the strategies for attaining these goals. The goals that they have said, the goals, what they need to build. What happens then? Then they have to assess their capabilities. They assess their capacity to execute these strategies. And then if nothing works out, pivot. If the strategy did not work out, pivot into something new. What are the elements that are needed to start a startup? First is the right team. The investors will unfailingly agree, and any seasoned entrepreneur can talk at length about the importance of a team behind a startup. Too often the entrepreneur, I just quote I read some time back. Too often an entrepreneur believes that the value is in the product. Quoting, this is said by Mr. Jakes, a partner of the diversified portfolio at BDC Venture Capital. And he says, what I constantly remind them is of the fact that the value is in the team you assemble and not the product. If the team is right, it will generate value, even if today's product doesn't exist tomorrow. That says it all, right? What next? Next is a mentor. A quality mentorship has a powerful effect, a powerful positive effect on young entrepreneurs. Experienced business mentors can offer valuable and unbiased perspectives that help us understand our strength as well as our weaknesses. They help these fledgling startups and entrepreneurs think through the strategies. They can help you see what you have not seen before. Why? Because the knowledge and the contacts that these mentors come with or that they bring in, that has been harvested through many years of experience. Let's go to the next. What is the next element needed to build a startup? Yes, it's a product. A good product is always the key to market success. Product development is of critical importance for any technology startup. Given the limited budget that is usually available to early stage startups, you have to make the right product development. You have to make the right product development decisions that can make that will give you that edge if you want to succeed or if you want to fail as a startup. And moreover, when your product function is defined, you can always create the right kind of business strategies. Your target team can then market them properly. That becomes measurable. Your positioning becomes well defined. The competitive differentiation is also trackable then. And like I said, if you don't have a good product, if you don't have a product that the users don't like, no business is going to be ever scalable. So always work on making the right product, the product that has a need, that will be liked by the users. It can be of different any segment, but try to build the right product. And with an aligned, properly crafted team, the right set of advisors and mentors, and then the good underlying product of your startup, fun becomes another ingredient to a startup who is destined to succeed. It is deliberately the fourth element to consider. Why have we kept fund as the fourth element to consider, not the first one? Because a bad team or a misaligned team, which is not aligned to your mentor's guidance, and a bad product, that would cripple even if you have a seemingly perfect strategy, even if you are cash rich. Right? So funding is basically another very vast area to cover in a stimulated time. the best resource where you can find about different kinds of funding according to the different stages of startups, you can please refer to the Startup India website. There are basically 3 types of startup funding, that is equity funding, debt funding, and government grants. The startup ecosystem has evolved now, and it is beyond these angel investors and VCs. Startups can raise funds from different kind of investors and platforms, and based on their need and the stage they are in. It could be angel investors, it could be VCs, it could be micro VCs, it could be government grants, it could be funds and incubators like us, it could be accelerators, family offices like Adani, Wipro. So it could be anything. The source of funding should actually match the stage of operations that the startup is in. And please note that raising funds from external sources is a time-consuming process. It is not that we apply for funds and then you get it immediately. It is a time-consuming process, and that can easily take over 6 months to 8 months or a year even to get converted. So looking at, if you look at the screen on the stages and sources, going to the ideation, let's talk about the ideation stage. This is the stage where an entrepreneur has an idea and is working on it to bring it to life. So the need of fund is usually small, that bracket is usually small. And additionally, at this initial stage in the startup life cycle, there are very limited, and mostly these are very informal channels for raising funds. This is called as a pre-seed stage. And the type of funding usually is either you are self-financed, means you are bootstrapped. Your bootstrap means you are growing your business with a very little or no venture capital, or it is outside investment. You have to rely on your savings and revenue to operate and expand. Then comes your friends and family, who is also a very commonly utilized channel of funding by the entrepreneurs who are in a very early stage. Then you can get the funds by participating in various business plan and pitching events. That is the prize money, the grants, or the financial benefits that is provided by institutions, organizations who conduct such kind of business plan competitions and challenges. The quantum of fund may not be very large, but it is usually enough in the idea stage. So next comes the validation. What happens in the validation? Validation at this stage, a startup has a prototype ready, and it needs to validate a potential demand of the startup's product and the services. This is called POC, proof of concept. You have to conduct a POC. And then comes the big market launch. This is under the seed stage. A startup will need to conduct field trials, have few potential customers, pilot the product, onboard mentors, build a formal team, and then explore these sources. What are the funding sources during the seed stage? It is usually incubators or government loan schemes or angel investors, crowdfunding. Okay. So what does crowdfunding mean? It means it refers to a pool of raising money from a large number of people who can contribute relatively smaller amount. Okay. So next comes the early traction stage. At this early traction stage, startup products or services have been launched in the market. So the key performance indicators such as the customer base revenue or the number of app downloads becomes very important at this stage. This is the Series A stage. So funds are raised at this stage so that it can further allow the growth of the user base, or you have different product offerings. You have to expand beyond the geographies. So some of the common funding sources utilized in this stage is VC funds that are professionally managed investment funds that exclusively invest in these high growth startups. Or you have these NBFCs, non-banking financial companies, or even banks where formal debt can be raised from the banks, and NBFCs at this stage as a startup can show market traction and revenue to validate its ability to finance interest payment obligations. So this is usually for the working capital. So some entrepreneurs usually prefer debt over equity as debt funding does not dilute your equity stake. Then what next? It is venture debt funds. They are also kind of a private investment funds that invest money primarily in the form of debt. Okay. So next come your scaling. So at this stage, a startup is experiencing a fast rate of market growth and increasing revenues. Which is this? This is the series B, C, D, and E. So common funding sources usually utilized by the startups in this stage are VC funds with larger ticket sizes in their investment, and these provide funding for late stage startups. It is recommended to approach these funds only after the startup has generated significant amount of market traction. So what happens is maybe a pool of VCs can come together and fund a startup as well. Some of them are private equity and investment firms that generally do not fund startups. However, usually some private equity and investment firms have been providing funds for the fast growing of late stage startups. But the primary thing is you have to have a consistent growth record. Okay, so next, after all this, what comes? It is the exit. How does this happen? It can happen through mergers and acquisitions, where the investor may decide to sell the portfolio company to another company in the market, or IPO, this initial public offering, wherein a startup lists on the stock market for the first time. Since the public listing process is very elaborate and replete with statutory formalities, it is generally undertaken by startups with a very impressive track record of profits and who are growing with a very steady pace. Okay, or there are other options like you may sell your shares. The investors may sell their equity or shares to other VC, other venture capital or private equity firms. The startups or the founders of startup even have an option to buy back their shares from the fund or the investors if they have liquid assets to make a purchase and they wish to regain the control of their company. Okay. So now that we have covered most of what is in a startup ecosystem, we will talk about the facilitators. Yes, that is one of them is Stpi. Software Technology Parks of India is a premier science and technology organization under the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, which is engaged in promoting IT, IPS industry, innovation, R&D, startups, product and IP creation in the field of various deep tech emerging technologies like IoT, blockchain, robotics, augmented reality, virtual reality, robotic process automation, data science, analytics, for various domains, agri-tech, fintech, gaming, medtech, ESDM, then autonomous connected electric and shared mobility, cybersecurity, industry 4.0. So what Stpi is doing is it is establishing centers of entrepreneurship or technology incubators for building India's leadership in all the technologies that I mentioned or that you see on the screen. And this is done across the country in a very collaborative manner. So we have launched, Stpi has launched around 20 centers of entrepreneurship till date. Like you see the one Entrepreneur Park, Delhi, which is a ESDM incubator in India, and it has been running for the past 6-7 years. So it has incubated around 25 startups and 6 startups have been funded and they have generated 25 crores as a revenue. Then there is Motion in Pune, which is an automotive center of entrepreneurship. Which I said it is an autonomous connected electric and shared mobility. We have Stpi Neuron, which is a center of entrepreneurship in AI, data analytics, IoT, and AVG, and is set up in collaboration with Government of Punjab, Mohali, and PTU and Methi. And there's this FinBlue, which is a center of entrepreneurship in fintech, and it is organizing the startup Pitch Fest, which is all funded by Government of India, and to find out, evaluate promising startups in the field of fintech. Similarly, we have Stpi IoT Open Lab, a center of entrepreneurship in Bengaluru, and this has been set up in partnership with partnership of Alor Electronics with Stpi. The one in Bhubaneswar is Entrepreneur Park Bhubaneswar, that is established to promote innovation and entrepreneurship in electronic system design and manufacturing. We have Image COE at Hyderabad to provide resources such as mentoring, technology support, and funding for gaming, animation, VFX, or startups working on these areas. We have Varco, virtual and augmented reality, that is again in Bhubaneswar. And we have MedTech, a center of entrepreneurship in the field of medical equipments and electronics and health informatics. That is in Lucknow. And this initiative is set up by a consortium comprising of STPI, SGPAGI Lucknow, Department of IT and Electronics, Government of UP, and AI, Association of Medical Device Industry, then AMTZ, along with the Kalam Institute of Health Technology. We have Apiary, a center of entrepreneurship in blockchain technology, again set up in collaboration with the METI, STPI, Government of Haryana, Paddock Ventures, IBM, GBA, FIDT. We have Octane, which is again in the Northeast, and it is expected to create a direct employment of 1,200. Okay, so there's Octane in Northeast. Then there's Fossil Center of Entrepreneurship for IoT in Agriculture, which is established by STPI at Dr. Panjab Rao Deshmukh Krishi Vidyapith. And another one in Bhubaneswar that got the recent approval and is coming up is in Industry 4.0 called as the MTech. So what does this STPI COE network does? The main objective and outcomes, like I mentioned, is to handhold startups. Give them 360-degree support to startups so that they have the right platform to take off. To foster entrepreneurship, innovation, knowledge exchange. Help startups protect their intellectual property, generate employment, and build leadership. That is the primary objective, build startups in all these emerging areas. So talking about the success of STPI startup ecosystem, we have 262 startups onboarded with us, 404 prototypes created already, 167 IPRs have been filed, 306 products have been developed, and 87 startups have raised funding. That's a good number. So the role of all the COEs who work in these in the model wherein we have the academia and the industry. So what do we do? We spread awareness of the Center of Entrepreneurship through various media and channels. Then there's an acceptance of proposals. We sign MOUs with industry as well as academia. And then we call for applications from the startups and select them on a very predefined criteria, like the innovation, how easier it is to implement the product that they develop, how would they be scalable. So after they are selected, they get mentorship from various personalities from the academia, for the industry, to nurture the ideas. Then their POCs is evaluated, they are constantly monitored and mentored, the product development is done, and finally, how do we support them? We help them get connected to the right market and help them interact with the angel investors or VCs for funding. So like I said, we have a very collaborative ecosystem for the startups. Like on one side, like we said, on the one side, we have METIs, STPI, state government and other government agencies. We have industry, these domain-specific industries, the leaders, partners, knowledge partners, industry associations. Then we have academia, academic mentoring for academic mentoring and then our training partners. And finally, we have the investors. We have investment funding agencies, we have VCs, we have angel investors. Okay, so coming to electropreneurship. What is it? You have all heard of entrepreneurship and all. So electropreneurship, we have coined this term taking electronics and entrepreneurship. So I can say it is an entrepreneur or an innovator who wants to do something in electronics or a hardware domain. So let's talk about some of the advantages and the challenges that is being faced by an electronic entrepreneur. What are the advantages? The first one is innovative, tangible products have a better impact. Customers are usually attracted towards a device or a solution that are usually tangible, that they can feel, sense, see physically, right? So for environmental and other mission-driven entrepreneurs, hardware startups provide an opportunity to make a real change in the world. So next comes less customization required. In hardware product, once a hardware product is made, there need not be any alteration made to the product because it goes through period iterate like number of iterations to form a product. Only software or firmware updates can be made virtually. Next is easy to identify the target market. Software products can be customized according to the demand of each customer, which is basically not possible in the case of a hardware product. But when a product of any hardware company sells, they can easily identify, demarcate their market or the customers for their product. What is the competitive landscape? Designing and developing a hardware product takes a lot of time and effort. A lot of time passes even before the company can launch its product. So the people who are already in the business can sense when a new competitor is coming to the business. And it is hard even for the competitors to design and launch the same product before the original manufacturer. Meets current industry demand. What does this mean? So as currently the industry demands emerging technologies such as Industry 4.0, IoT, embedded system, AR, VR. So hardware startups should design and market devices related to these fields so as to not be left behind. Long-term customer acceptance and trust. If a hardware startup gains a customer's trust by constantly delivering these competent products, the customer will never easily shift to any other company. That's the loyal base that it creates. Unlike software products, where the customer keeps on switching between and using multiple products. Next, come to challenges. What are the challenges? A hardware startup needs a lot of investment. Why? Because hardware product requires process building, designing, developing, testing over time. Right? The gestation period for a hardware product is much more than that of a software product. Hence, it is very capital intensive. Next is it requires rigorous testing. Production of any hardware product requires many testing on each step. The testing ensures the competency of the product and the fitness to be launched in the market. High idea to market time. The production of a hardware product is a very time-consuming process. Like I said, because of the multiple iterations. Even after that, there needs to be enough time to produce and certify. Unless you have it certified by or make it according to the right standards, you cannot launch the product in the market. There's a higher risk than any other software startup. Why? Because the company has to pay for every little mistake in the product. And like I said, it is capital intensive. Hardware update becomes challenging because unlike software products, which can be updated even after being launched, so nothing can be done about the hardware products you have at home. You have to bring it to somewhere, or maybe the hardware product itself has to be redesigned for any minor updation. The most challenging thing that a hardware startup faces is skilled manpower. To make a hardware product, a company usually needs different kinds of skills and skill sets, like electronic design, embedded application programming, mechanical engineers, industrial designs, etc. It is difficult to have such skilled manpower from multiple domains, onboarded for the product development. So what do we do about it? This is where Entrepreneurship Bhubaneswar supports you, handholds you, help these hardware startups set attainable, sustainable, and scalable strategies. So what is, like I said, Entrepreneurship comes from electronics entrepreneur. The focus areas of this ESDM Center of Entrepreneurship is not restricted. I hope you all are not taking a nap. Can I see the hands raised again? Okay, good. Thank you. So the focus areas are not limited, but the major focus areas of Entrepreneur Park is energy, process control and automation, education, and any other, for that matter, any other innovative proposal in the ESDM sector. So what is the main objective? Our main objective is to have make in India products to contribute towards promotion of innovation, manufacturing, and startups in the ESDM sector. So we have here in the Stpi Elite building, we have Entrepreneur Park, which is in your neighborhood, in your vicinity. So do come over sometime. So we have 73 plug and play seats, and we have a state-of-the-art ESDM lab. Our academic partner is IIIT Bhubaneswar. Our industry partner is India Electronics and Semiconductor Association. We are also the alliance member of Intel, and our industry partner also includes Texas Instruments, NALCO, Excel Point, and NRDC. This is a little tempting for you to visit. I have deliberately kept the pictures so that you feel like coming over and seeing the place for yourself. So this is the co-working space, the conference room, the meeting room, the ESDM lab and the fab lab, the data center, auditorium, the cabins of the startups, the cafeteria. And so coming to the offerings. So there are different services which are available for the beneficiaries of Entrepreneur Park. Like I showed you, the physical infrastructure, which includes the state-of-the-art ready-to-work space. We have different programs running. That is the pre-incubation, incubation, and virtual incubation program. The pre-incubation, if you remember the stages while I explained during funding, the pre-incubation is usually for the ideation stage startups. And the incubation and virtual incubation program, the pre-incubation program is of 3 to 6 months. The incubation and the virtual incubation program is of 18 months. Like I said, electronic startup have a longer gestation period. So it is of 18 months and another 6 plus 6 on approval. The state-of-the-art fab lab and ESDM lab with advanced testing equipment, high voltage testing equipment, very domain-specific software startups, including MSOs, power supplies, electronic labs, software tools like ORCAD. Then we have arbitrary signal generators. We have different domain-specific equipments like that of agritech, optics, communication lab, drone kits. We have an in-house fabrication, PCB fabrication lab. So anybody who's ever interested to work on any electronic hardware product, wants to develop one, should please feel free to come over to the lab and can explore. What other things that we provide is, we provide a financial assistance up to 50,000 for the components, the electronic components and other services. We give a seed grant of 2 lakhs to the incubated startups. We give them an access to the reference designs and resource library. And like the rest tick in the box, we give them high-speed internet access and direct mentoring from the stalwarts, the who's and who of the industry. Then we give them an access to the VC funding. We give them access to all the 20 plus UAs of Stpi and their labs. And we facilitate collaboration with the government agencies and industry, help them in piloting of the solutions, then give them support in legal, accounting, and IPR services as well. These are some of the other support that we provide, cross-border collaboration with international partners. And then we give the startups an opportunity to showcase their products to the global markets, the sponsorship to national and international level events. Like recently, many of our startups have showcased in the Digital India Week that was held at Ahmedabad. Sponsors, then we give them an opportunity for joint R&D with corporate houses. And the key takeaways and onboarding, like I mentioned, we give many support services. Apart from that, we give them a 12 months free software services of Freshworks, MATLAB, Simulink, and $5,000 AWS promotion kit. We have different other schemes through which we facilitate funding to the startups. One of them being the next generation incubation scheme, where the startups are supported with a seed fund up to 25 lakhs. And many startups have been benefited from this program. We also have tied up with HDFC, which gives a CSR grant of up to 25.5 lakhs. Just mentioning about the mentor, you can very well see the strong mentor pool that we have. These are our mentors are from various industries like Texas Instruments, then Cadence Design Systems, SLN Technologies. We have We have many, we have from VCs, we have experts from different other incubators and accelerators. We have people from government, from academia. So we have a strong mentor pool. You can see for yourself the list of mentors mentioned on the screen. Coming to the small snapshot of the startups that we have here. We have around like physically incubated 16 startups here working, out of which 5 are in the late stage market ready startups. We have around 10 early stage startups, and then some 2 seed stage startups. So this is a small portfolio of incubator entrepreneur park. So we have 16 startups incubated. We have 3 virtually incubated startups, and 81 lakhs have been raised by our incubators. The investment of the investment by the incubator is around 27 lakhs. Our startups have developed around 16 POCs, and 8 products have been developed. So these are some of the things that we constantly do. We constantly conduct a TRL mapping and a milestone mapping of our startups. And on average, let's say we have around 4 hours of mentoring session per startup per month. Like I said, we have 26 mentors. So we have given around 400 hours of mentoring to the startups that have already been done. We have facilitated 40 industry connections. And apart from that, we have had many acceleration programs for the startups. Some of the pictures of the mentoring sessions that we organize for the startups. These are different technical mentoring sessions. We do that according to the need of the startups, as and when they require any support, technical support or strategic support, we provide them. I just mentioned about the acceleration programs that we run. One of the acceleration programs that we recently completed was on the challenges faced in the smart cities. So this was a pan-India contest. It was named as SCOUT, Smart City Challenge and Outcome for Urban Transformation. Here we had many technology and implementing partners like that of Analog Devices, L&T Smart World. So these system integrators like L&T Smart World, Bhubaneswar Smart City Limited, Ashoka Buildcon, Shapuji Palanji, they all gave the problem statements, the problem statement that were faced by these the system integrators working in the smart cities, and to support the startups to come up with the right solutions. So we had technical partners like Microchips, then Xilinx, Analog Devices. So Stpi provided a platform, a conglomerate of all these system integrators as well as implementing partners and technical partners to come up with 26 deployable products at the end of this program. So some of the technical sessions that we organize very often. Okay, and if all like these are, yeah. So we organize these sessions in particularly at regular intervals as and when our startups need. So right now we have an open challenge program that is going on. If anybody or anyone is interested, you can please apply. The links to all can be found on our website. So you can apply to the open challenge program. If you have any idea that excites you and can equally excite us, please feel free to apply. Go to the website, and there's a link where you can apply to the apply for this program. It's called as OCP3 of Entrepreneurship Park, Bhubaneswar. So I think I have had said enough. Well, if all of this did not convince you, I'll just show you some of the startups who have been working brilliantly. So these are some of the products of our startups like SPK Map. They offer end-to-end product solutions under 2 business models like the engineering services and the ODM. And their service model includes services from product design to embedded hardware design, and an in-house product development and designing, as well as third-party manufacturing. We have Priorities Made Easy, who have designed or designing manufacturing products, and they have designed a smart portable medicine container, come IoT-based reminder for elderly and other patients. Then there is FX UAV Technologies, which is developed a fixed wing UAV, which holds the ability for aerial scanning, payload drop, and most importantly, mini missile launching technique. So what happens? What does this startup do? The UAV will help in the survey of the area of the incident. And let's say there's a fire, then it does the survey and then goes for a payload drop or a mini missile launching, which will help diffuse the fire. We have Carbon Out Techom. The team is manufacturing green tile blocks for illuminating the floor area, buildings and road pathways. So these modular blocks will meet all the smart features of IoT devices and safety standards, and will act as a food for thought for creative need of the new age with a very modular aesthetic and intelligent approach. The next, another startup incubated entrepreneur park is QuickBit 7. It's manufacturing automated vending machine for food products. I think one of it is placed in your campus as well, if I remember very correctly. Earthy Technology Solutions is another one. It's a FitEasy that converts any home pedal exercise equipment into an immersive multiplayer game controller, and at a very lesser price than that of the available products in the market. We have Swaviman Private Limited, which is a tri-mode drone, which can move on land, air, and water, and embedded with autopilot, GPS locking, and gyros, and can be controlled by wireless communications. We have Thinkro Innovative Solutions, which is a solar-powered floating device, agriculture and fishery sectors with IoT-based smart control system. We have Nistala Instrument and Innovation Private Limited, which is a battery management system with high-speed charging, and it can be used in two-wheeler and three-wheeler, four-wheeler, and six-wheeler, and it is universal charging system functionality test equipment. Now we have Young Tinker, which is again providing hands-on curriculum, STEM curriculum to the students. We have Mythica, who plan to build India's first premium computing device brand and the world's first inclusive gadget company to solve specific issues encountered by the differently abled while using computers. We have Soundly Private Limited, which is a new solution for problem of hearing loss. And with the help of teeth conduction, they can transmit vibration, and with the help of audible, that signal can be sent via teeth. So there's another Oxypot, which draws carbon dioxide filled air from the environment, and ultimately this device maintains the level of oxygen in the office, ensuring the peak performance of the employees and brings profit to the organization. We have SMPS Electric Control Private Limited, which has developed products such as integrated Versa module converter and smart hybrid SMPS, which brings uninterrupted power supply concept in both AC and DC for multiple applications. We have Aranya Paridhi Private Limited, which is developing solar electric fencing for agricultural applications. It has also developed microinverter, which harvests optimum power by performing maximum power point tracking from solar power. We have EV Garage and Electric Vehicle Center of Excellency for EV services such as motor controller and charger repair and replacement. So I'll just help you see the ESDM lab and digital fabrication lab facilities, but I would request you all to come over, have a visit and see the facility for yourself. These are some of the test and measurement lab, the best that you can find in this side of the country. So like we have 4-channel oscilloscope, differential probes, PC-based logic analyzers, auto transformers, then power supply and electronic load lab, where we have DC power supply up to 600 volts, DC power supply 20 volts, 5 kilovolts, electronic load, various software tools like ORCAD, LabVIEW, and we also do PCB prototyping, environmental testing, and we offer our startups or anybody for that matter, the components which can be accessed from the lab. We have additive manufacturing equipments and additive manufacturing like Form 3D printer, Stratasys PolyJet. We have CNC manufacturing, mini CNC mill, CNC router, and laser engraver and cutter. This is open for everybody who can come and use the lab equipments. So these are very specific, domain-specific testing and measurement equipment, like the LCR meters and all. We have very domain-specific equipments in agritech, optics, alternate energy, drone kits, and communication lab. Okay, so all I can say is, that long-term sustainability will not does not concern entrepreneurs who look for quick profits from in and out deals. Sustainability in entrepreneurship is even more important for entrepreneurs because they would like to build an institution that is capable of renewing itself through changing generations of technology or employees or even customers. So before I end, what risks and sacrifices does such an enterprise need is to build a sustainable business. The one principal asset is not the founder's skills or the contacts or the efforts, because it will eventually become a solo consulting practice, generating cash from the start. But then a durable startup that aims to produce consumer goods, it needs continued investment, both intellectual and infrastructural investment to build these sustainable advantages. Okay. I think I have exhausted more time and I have said more than what I was asked to. But it is always a passion to support entrepreneurs, and that usually fuels such lengthy lectures. But then wishing you all the very best and looking forward to more interactions. But I hope it is a dialogue next time, not a monologue like me speaking. It will always be good if we have interactions. And we are neighbors geographically, so you may please feel free to drop in anytime. So that is all I have to say. Thank you so much. Stay safe. God bless you. Namaskar.
It goes without saying that it is exemplary on part of Srimati Lopa Mishra Jana ma'am to have accepted and been present for delivering the second Impact Lecture series, conveying the significant steps that our neighborhood Software Technology Park of India, Stpi Next, is delivering. We all know the basic essence of a sunflower. Can someone tell us, please? What do you notice to be quite peculiar about a sunflower growth? Exactly. The sunflower is fond of the sun, and it actually traces the footprints of the sun and it moves the direction accordingly. Quite similarly, it is an open window opportunity, irrespective of your educational background. But if you have the rigor, if you have an idea, and you need a team and mentoring, you have Stpi, and with, I think, all the gusto, all right, you can achieve the reality of a business acumen developed under the aegis of Stpi Next, Electropreneur Park, Bhubaneswar. And on that note, we once again thank Srimati Lopa Mishra Jana ma'am and the team of Stpi Next, Bhubaneswar, on behalf of Birla Global University. Thank you, ma'am. And very soon we are going to be assembled at your doorstep with a team that learn the habit of some electro or ESDM modeling for sure. And out of all the centers of entrepreneurship, someone that is really close to me and I look forward to is the Fasal one, where the agri-tech and Akola region is being spoken about. Let us see if our team of all the students across several schools at our campus can actually come up with artificial intelligence or machine learning or drone prototyping, to help out the agriculture patches, at least in the vicinity of Gotopatna, to procure it from becoming the concrete that, that is gradually it is taking shape of.
We look forward to this. We look forward to this, and you have all our support anytime, any day.
Thank you once again.
Thank you.
So on that note, as the President of Institutional Innovation Council and Nodal Head, Atal Ranking Institutions on Innovative Awareness, I extend my gratitude to Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. P.P. Mathur, Revered Registrar Sir, Dr. B.K. Das, Revered Deans from all schools of Birla Global University, esteemed faculty colleagues, and all the students across all the schools of the campus. Once again, we are beginning on a promising note. The second and the final session of the Impact Series would be conducted on 29th. Let there be equal amount of gusto, energy, and less gossiping, but more of talk on making your dream the reality in the entrepreneurial way it is. Dhanyavad once again. Please take good care of yourself. Good day.
Thank you so much, and thank you to VC sir and Registrar sir, and thank you everyone. Thank you so much.
Dhanyavad, ma'am. Thank you.